Hey, our lesson today is going to be about Saul and David. We're going to be reading out of 1 Samuel. We're going to read the whole chapter 18 and then we'll kind of break it down a little bit. But we'll go ahead and start with the reading. And it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle. And David went out Saul sent him, whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me have ascribed but thousands, and what can have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day forward. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, as he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand, as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and he was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give unto thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I? And what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be the son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at that time, when Merab Saul's daughter should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Meholite to wife. Oh yeah, I forgot to put a disclaimer on this. We're going to be talking about something here in a little bit. I don't want you to have to start a conversation if you've got a child in the room, so you might want to listen to the rest of this before deciding whether they listen to it or not. Okay, now we're on 1 Samuel chapter 18. We're going to start back, and we're at verse 20. It said, And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David, and David said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this manner spake David. And Saul said, Thus shall ye say to David, The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. And the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, and he and his men, and slew the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave him in full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. The princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass after they went forth that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. Okay. It gives little parts in here of everything we read. It says previous passages have shown that Jonathan has an outstanding faith and eagerness to serve God. So it should come as no surprise that he is impressed with David's stand against Goliath. He overhears David's conversation with him. Here's David's conversation with Saul, and immediately bonds forms. David and Jonathan become kindred spirits from this point forward. Jonathan isn't the only one intrigued by David. From that day onward, Saul does not let David return home. David will have other things to do besides tend sheep and make deliveries. In fact, David excels at whatever assignment Saul gives him, which impresses both the army officers and the people of Israel. David's heroism is soon depicted in song. Women came out to greet the returning army, singing, dancing, and playing instruments. But the lyrics are irksome to Saul. Most likely the singers have no intent to compare Saul with David. They are simply elated that David and Saul have rid the nation of so many of their enemies. Yet Saul's envy grows quickly. When God once again sends a spirit that troubles Saul, David returns to playing the harp with the intent of soothing the king as before. But this time Saul's attempts to kill David with his spear, David twice escapes. Then Saul strategizing becomes he gives David a big promotion, placing him over 1,000 soldiers. The battlefield is a dangerous place where Saul hopes David will meet his death and be forgotten, but God is with David and gives him great success. Saul offers David one of his daughters in marriage on the condition that David continues to fight. Whether or not this is intended as part of the reward for fighting Goliath is uncertain. But Saul is not prepared for David's response. David rejects Saul's offer, not because he is reluctant to endanger himself in battle, but because he is truly a humble man who considers his station in life unworthy of such gift. And David declines the offer. Saul allows that daughter to marry another man. Another of Saul's daughters, Michal, loves David. Saul takes the opportunity to offer David another deal. If David feels he lacks the wealth of social status to be the king's son-in-law, Saul will consider another dowry altogether, 100 Philistine foreskins. Saul sends word of this offer to David, who responds with enthusiasm. Saul's stated intent is to take revenge on his enemies, but his real desire is to have David killed by the Philistines. Saul's hopes are dashed again as David returns with twice the dowry Saul had demanded. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to add to it. We just read this chapter discusses David's victories over the Philistines. The Philistines, it said they lived in cities toward the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, so it had to have been Ekron, Ashdod, Gaza, Goth. And the ones mentioned in this was, of course, David. He was selected by God to eventually become the second king of Israel. You had Saul. God selected Saul to be the first king of Israel. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. You had Jonathan, the son of Saul, and the best friend of David. And then you had Michal, Saul's daughter, who married David. Let's see. David and Jonathan became friends. After the defeat of Goliath, David and Jonathan became good friends. The soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. Saul set David over his men of war, and David won several victories against the Philistines. The women of Israel started singing about how Saul had defeated thousands. Let's see. I also wanted to, well, no. That was basically it. And then it says here, if God is against you, no amount of scheming, planning, or luck will help you succeed. Saul tried and failed several times to kill David because he was fighting against a man who had God as his ally. You can't fight against God and win. Better to join him and serve him than to spend your life struggling pathetically against an all-powerful adversary. That was the lesson today. I thought it was pretty interesting. And then it goes, something to be said for that friendship too, because the Hebrew word used here of the friendship between David and Jonathan speaks of a friendship that goes deep and includes a lasting and loving relationship. David and Jonathan didn't just share an acquaintance and enjoy each other's company. They loved each other. Their souls were knit together in close friendship. What makes this friendship so remarkable isn't that the two men were both warriors, both young and gifted, both strong formed a bond. What makes this friendship so remarkable is that in most circumstances it would have never happened. Jonathan was heir to the throne of Israel, and David was usurper, to the throne of Israel. The Bible doesn't go into detail, but somehow Jonathan recognized David as God's leader of choice, and rather than grabbing and holding on to his royal rights, he relinquished them in a demonstration of great character. That in itself was an act of humility and grace on Jonathan's part. As if that weren't enough, however, he took more of a leap of character and formed a friendship with the man who should have been his enemy. A friendship that has gone down in history as one to be admired and imitated. Often friendship requires sacrifices, sometimes as significant as the one made by Jonathan. He gave up his rights as heir to the throne in order to form a friendship with David. In 1 Samuel 18:4, giving his robe to David signified his surrender of the throne. You might have to defend your friend against attack, as Jonathan did when his father attacked David in 1 Samuel 19:4, chapter 20, verse 30, and chapter 34, you can read it. You will have to sacrifice your privacy, your need at times to keep things to yourself, sharing them instead with your friend. I thought I would add that to it because, that was the chapter he kind of went over a lot. I hope I didn't confuse anybody because I've sat here and confused myself some. But, if you have any questions, comment on below. Like and subscribe. Like I said, we're going to try to do at least a video a week. I guess that's all. You all take care of yourselves, and I will See you next week. I love each and every one of you.